Hi everybody. I hope you're all well. Hopefully you've already watched the video that explains the homework corrections this week. If you have, you'll have already seen that I'm trying another technique for the video lesson today. If I'm completely honest, it's because I don't have a lot of time at the moment. I'm sure you're the same, just with a lot of work to do. And so I've decided to try and use this technique just with a tablet and a screen recorder rather than having to get up and down to the blackboard, wipe it off with the computer. The problem with this is that the writing isn't always great, but hey, what I've realized from this experience of online teaching, online learning, is that I'm normally a complete perfectionist about everything that I do. And I've realized that I've had to relax a little bit and that I'm not a Hollywood director and I can't make the videos that I would like to, but hopefully you'll be able to understand in any case. Okay, so what we're going to start with today is we're on page 60 and it's basically a big kind of grammar point. It's the last big kind of grammar thing we have to look at, and it is reported speech. Okay, so direct or indirect speech. Now I've prepared just a few slides to try and explain to you a bit better. It'll probably be revision for some of you. You'll have studied it a few years ago, but you might need to freshen up a little bit. Yeah, so what I'll do first of all is I'll explain the slides. I will try, after I've made this film, to save the slides in the drive. I would take notes anyway, just in case, but I'm pretty sure there's a way to save them. Okay, so let's make a start. So basically, we're looking at direct or indirect speech. And the main rule that we have when we're talking about direct or indirect speech is called back shifting, which is basically when you have to go back one tense into the past. Okay, so if you look at our example here, we've got the sentence, I'm hungry. Okay, let's imagine these are my words. It's in the present. So we've got I'm hungry. Okay. When we're reporting this speech, so here I've chosen the verb say, in the past said. Sarah said that she was hungry. So you see that from the present simple, we've moved back into the past simple. Okay, just another simple example. I went to Rome with my brother. So here we're in the past. And when we want to report it, she said that she had been. So from the past, we need to move back into the past perfect. Okay, so that's the first slide. I've just realized maybe at the beginning of this, I had my hand over the microphone. So I hope you managed to hear it. Okay. Let's move on to our next slide. Okay, now I need to try and make myself, I'm realizing that I'm blocking the screen here. So basically it says, no tense change with general truths. Okay, things that are always true. So somebody might say to me, don't bring a lot of heavy clothes because it's hot in summer in Italy. Okay, when I report this, I would say, she warned me that it's hot. I don't need to change this time, the present. It remains the present because it's a truth. It's a known fact that it's hot in Italy in the summer. Okay, the second example I've given here about Salvatore. Salvatore plays the clarinet. This is true. Okay, it's a fact. And so when I report this sentence, I would say, he informed me that Salvatore plays. I don't change it. okay? Because it's always true. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, yeah, here I've prepared other situations where there is no tense change, okay? So when you have the direct speech in the past perfect, it remains in the past perfect in the reported speech, okay? Other verbs where there is no tense change, all of these modals, would, could, might, should, and ought to. Remember this ought to, we've said in previous lessons, the same meaning as should, okay? So a form for giving advice. And finally, our used to, okay, to speak about past actions or past facts, okay? So this one doesn't change at all. If you look on page, just looking of your books, page 84, okay, gives you the table of these verbs, okay, and it shows the tense change and it describes the situations to you where there isn't a tense change. So if you want to go and revise them, go to page 48. Sorry, 84. Got confused with my numbers. Just a quick note here that I've written about the imperative form. If you have to report an imperative, okay, let's try and finish this part of the video before my battery dies. So we have the imperative, don't touch that. And when we report it, he warned me not to touch that. Now just be careful of the order here, because in Italian you'd say di non toccare, okay? It's kind of the opposite. So in English, he warned me not to touch that, okay? Two other examples of maybe strange changes is that when we use must and we report it, we use had to, okay? Except when we're speaking about it in the negative form, when it remains mustn't, okay? So you mustn't touch that. She told me that. I mustn't touch that, okay? With no change. So a special point about questions. So I've written here our question. What are you wearing to the party? Okay. And when we report that, we would say, she asked me what I was wearing to the party. So a couple of things to notice. First of all, we've got our verb in the present and we've back shifted to the simple past. The other thing to notice is that when you report it, it is no longer a question. Okay, here there isn't a question mark. So the word order becomes normal. You have the subject and you have the verb, okay? Notice that in the first sentence, you have the question order, verb, subject. What are you wearing? But when we report it, the order becomes a normal affirmative statement, the subject, then the verb. Let's look at the second sentence. So a normal sentence. How do you feel? Okay, question. So again, here we've got the present. And here it becomes the past. And of course, because it is no longer a question, like I said before, the word order is simply subject and verb. Okay, I think that's everything about questions. I know, a special mention for the yes-no questions. So yes-no questions obviously are questions when the answer is either yes or no, okay? So looking at the question here, are you going to the party? And when we report this, first of all, we're going to use the verb ask, okay, because that's what we use with a question. She asked me, we can use either if or whether. Careful of the spelling because it's not the same as the weather. What's the weather like? It's different. So she asked me if or whether I was going to the party. Okay, so again, notice that we've taken the present and made it into the past. And we've got normal subject and verb order because it isn't a question. Moving on, yeah, other things to speak about with the direct and indirect questions. The use of say and tell. This is an error that I don't know, I probably correct it about 10 times a day, I think, when people say, can you say me the answer? And it just sounds horrible because it's so wrong. Okay, so remember the fundamental difference between say and tell. When you're using tell, you're always going to use a person, okay? So tell me the answer, okay? So you can tell somebody that, or you can tell somebody to do something, okay? I told him to sit down. I told him that the earth was flat, for example. Then obviously when we have say, this is the biggest mistake that people make. Say me the answer. No, because here with say, you don't use the person directly after say. Okay, if you want to include a person, here I've written, you need to use to before it. So she said to me that the earth was flat. Okay, so that's just a small point about say and tell. And moving on here, so this is the part that interests us in particular, because often in the part of the sentence transformations, you have to use these structures. Okay, so they're separated into verbs that are followed by the infinitive and verbs that are followed by the gerund. Okay, so I'll look at them quickly one by one. So advise, first of all. So if you have the direct speech, you should stop smoking. Then when it's indirect, you could say, she advised me to stop smoking. Okay, agree is another verb. You agreed to do something. Another example with offer, you might have the original sentence, shall I help you? So in the transformation, she offered to help me. Okay, also with promise, followed by the ing form, refuse, ing form, and threaten. Be careful of the spelling and the pronunciation of this verb, minacciare, threaten. Okay, so here at the original sentence, you might see, if you don't pay me the money, I will kill your rabbit, for example. So here you would have, she threatened to kill my rabbit. All right. And in the other column here, the gerund that you can see. So accuse, first of all, you accuse somebody of doing something. Okay, so she accused me of stealing her pencil case. Okay, so using the same situation, she admitted stealing my pencil case. The same apologize for. Now obviously apologize for is followed by the gerund because we have the preposition. Remember, we've said before, every time there is a preposition, it's followed by the gerund. Okay, so another example, to complain about. She complained about having to study so much, ing form. Okay, deny, this verb, negare. Okay, so she denied stealing the biscuits from the tin. Suggest, we've seen before, because ways of making suggestions, not I suggest that, sorry, not I suggest you to, but I suggest plus ing, I suggest going on holiday. Okay, and the last one in this column, insist on. So she insisted on doing my shopping for me, is an example. So try, and this is the most important part, I think, try and remember, particularly the gerund column. Okay, we're using the ing form in the correct way. And here, okay, so I just gave you a written example of one of these sentences. So the direct speech could be, I didn't steal the car. And in our transformation, we have to use the word stealing. So you would say the boy denied stealing the car. Actually, you could also say this in a different way, which is probably more similar to the Italian structure. You could also say the boy denied having stolen the car. Obviously not in the case of this transformation, because you have to use the verb stealing, but it would also be grammatically correct to say the boy denied having stolen the car. Okay, moving back to the previous slide, this would also be true of accuse of. So he accused the robber of having stolen the car. Okay, she apologized for having stolen the car. Also with deny, he denied, always the car, he denied having stolen the car. Okay, so remember that both of these forms are correct. So either just with the gerund, or like we said before, this one, having plus the past participle. Okay, I'm going to pause for a moment. I've just remembered one more thing that I haven't said yet related to this are obviously the other changes that you have to make when you're reporting speech. For example, pronouns. If someone says, I'm going to Rome with my brother, when you report that, you would have to say, she told me that she was going to Rome with her brother. Okay, it's completely obvious, but just to underline to you that. So in this case, the my becomes his or her. Also, time references. If somebody says, I'll see you tomorrow, direct speech. The indirect speech, she told me that she'd see me the next day. Okay. The same with yesterday, which becomes the day before or the previous day, you could say. And other words, for example, this, when you report it, becomes that. I'm not going to list all of the different changes now, but in the drive, I'm going to put for you a table with the main changes that you have to remember. Unfortunately, in your books on page 84, in the reference, they mention all of the other things, but there isn't this aspect that is mentioned. So in the drive, I'll put this reference for you so you can check it. Okay, so if you have a look in your books on page 60 and 61, there's a few exercises that I'd like you to try and do. So if you try and do it now during the video, obviously pause it in a moment, try and do it, and then I'll go through a couple of answers with you. Try and do exercise 1, ignore exercise 2. Exercise 3 you can do 4, and on page 61, 5, 6 and 7, okay? I don't think you'll have any big problems with these. So have a go now, and then after I will go through a couple of the answers with you. Don't forget that you find the answers in the back of the book. So the ones that I don't go through with you, have a check, and if you have any big doubts or you really don't understand why the answer is what it is, then get in touch with me and I'll try and explain to you. Okay, so I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so hopefully you didn't have any problems with that. The only thing in exercise 4, hopefully you remembered to do the normal word order that I told you after reporting questions. Okay, so it's a normal subject, verb, word order. The only thing I wanted to mention to you in exercise 5, so I've kind of tried to circle the verbs that fit into the gap. Just a note of attention to explain, okay? Because people often make a mistake with this. So explain in English is not followed by a direct object, okay? So you can't say in English, can you explain me exercise 6? No, you'd have to say, can you explain exercise 6 to me? Okay, so that's just a little note there. So like I said, let me know if there were any problems with the other exercises on that page. And the next activity that I'd like you to do is the exam task on that page. So here there's a couple, sorry, that's page 61. There are a couple that are related to direct and indirect speech, and others that are kind of a mix also of passives, etc. So if you pause, try and do it now, and then I'll go through the answers with you. Okay, so just to have a look at those answers with you. So in number 1, if we can see that a bit better. No. In number 1, so this is a transformation into the passive. When I dropped my purse, it was picked up by, okay. Number 2, be careful of the word order here, okay, because we're transforming an imperative this time. So Petra's mum told her not to, okay, it's not to not, no, but not to. Petra's mum told her not to leave her wet towel on the floor. Number 3, we're transforming this time reported speech into direct speech. So the teacher said, does anyone know how old the building is? I'm sorry for the terrible writing. I need to buy a new pen. This one is not the best. Number 4, remember that we've looked at in the past the difference between so and such. So when you have so, it's followed by an adjective. When you have such, it's followed by a noun. Okay, so it was such a long film. Number 5, we have our old friend, the third conditional. So I would have lent my brother, etc. And number 6, again, another transformation into between reported and direct speech. Actually, no, this one is just a different use of a reporting verb. Okay, so here the verb is warned. So my aunt warned us, again, word order, not to go. Okay. Okay, so the last thing that I'd like you to have a look at today is on page 62, and it is the exam task. You know, the one in the exam that not that a lot of you have problems with the exams, but this is the exercise that normally there are 3 or 4 incorrect answers in. So the one where you have to read and then connect the 10 sentences to each of the 4 or sometimes 5 people. Okay, so try and have a look at this one now, the one on page 62 and 63, and time yourself. Don't allow yourself more than 10 minutes to do this activity, because in the real exam, that's the only, that's all the time you're going to have. Okay, so try and do that one now, pause it, and after I'll have a look at the answers with you. Okay then, so just to finish, let's have a look through the answers to this exercise. So first of all, number 1, the person who suggests taking a break and coming back to an idea is obviously Maria here in this part. If you're having an idea block, wait a day or 2 and look at it with fresh eyes. So we can speak about an idea block, or also we say a mental block. Okay, so you can use this expression as well. Number 2, recommends asking people to come up with, remember this phrasal verb, to come up with ideas for a project. This one was Eric. Let's have a look. So he speaks about brainstorming with your family and friends. Okay, so this idea of asking people. Number 3, advises against changing an idea once work has started on it. Let me have a look at my book. So this one was Anita. So she speaks about it's easy to feel unsure and get discouraged, but stick with it. So obviously if you stick with something, it means you remain with that thing. Okay. Number 4 says presenting information in a variety of ways makes it more accessible to people. This one was David, when he speaks about people have different learning styles, so use different approaches. Number 5 advises that a project should be achievable in terms of its aims. So this one was Eric again, and he says, make sure your project is realistic. It's pointless thinking you can stop global warming. So here, the meaning of pointless, this adjective, means it's useless. There's no point in doing it. Okay. Number 6 says original ideas are likely to be more successful. This one was Maria, and she speaks about the judges are looking for someone who has imagination. Okay. Number 7 suggests a way of researching presentation techniques. This one was Anita again. So basically she's telling you to copy other people. It's good to look at past entries from finalists, etc., etc. Number 8, being able to communicate is more valuable than a lot of knowledge. This one was David. So here, definitely some finalists who had memorized more facts than me, but I was able to take a scientific concept and explain it in a simple way. Number 9 mentions that research of the topic should be as extensive as possible. This one was Anita again. With this expression, it's best if you know your topic inside out. So the expression to know something inside out means to know every aspect of it, to know it thoroughly, to know it perfectly. Okay. And finally, number 10 says the amount of effort required to get ready was challenging. This one was Eric. So he speaks about here the preparation before the day puts your commitment and determination to the test. Okay. So the ones from the book I think are always much easier than the ones that you do in the actual practice exam. Speaking of practice exams, I put another one in the drive last week, so part of your homework is to continue with that one and send it to me as soon as you've done it. I think I'm up to date with everything that I've received so far. If you have sent me something and you think that I haven't corrected it, then please let me know, because it is totally possible that you've sent something to me and I've missed it. People like Amelia and Eleonora that send me writings via, can't think of the word, Google Docs. I make the modifications directly to the file, so I hope that you've seen them. Okay, so that's part of the homework, the practice test. And I'm also going to put a couple of things into the drive. So I'll send you an email when I've done that, so you know exactly what there is to do. Okay, I think that's everything for today. So thank you for watching, and as usual, get in touch if there are any doubts or any problems about anything. Okay, take care all of you, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks with the meet. But again, I will send you a message in advance so that you know about it. Okay, take care. Have a nice day. Bye.